So, first of all, let me start by saying congrats on the movie. I had a blast watching this thing. I have a million questions for both of you, but since I have a little extra time, I need to drill down on Hugh for a quick second. You're in two of my favorite movies of the last few years, and I've told one of this to you, is Cloud Atlas and Paddington 2. I think both of those are
very similar films.
Very similar, but they're both masterpieces.
You're nice to say that. I've warmed to you.
I am curious, though, what do you remember about both of those films? Did you realize when you were making both that they were going to be these classics of cinema? For me, at least.
No, clearly not. But I was aware that both directors, the Wachowskis, and Paul King on Paddington, were very, very filmy. And for me, that's the thing you want. It's rather like Guy Ritchie. There's quite a difference between people who do TV, or what you might call blown-up TV, and people who are really steeped, marinated in the history of cinema, like Scorsese, for instance, or Tarantino. And Paul King and the Wachowskis come into that category. Everything is kind of a reference or an homage, and it really shows in filmmaking, I think. And you look at Paddington 2, it's full of homages to all kinds of films, Charlie Chaplin films and so on. And, the Wachowskis, you can't get more cinematic than them. We even shot it on film. Do you remember film?
I'm familiar. I've heard about it.
Yeah.
Some process in a lab.
Yeah.
Right. Jumping into why I get to talk to the two of you guys today. You've both worked with Guy before, and I'm curious, has he changed at all, or is he still the guy that you met that first time you worked with him?
Yeah, I mean, I think his process is pretty consistent, and it's eccentric, wonderful inconsistency. I think we've said it before, and we've both said it a lot today, but he really keeps you on your toes, Guy. There's a lot of leeway to play around and to try stuff, to have a sense of real ownership over the role, but then he's also very specific in making sure that whatever that is, goes through the Ritchie filter, and days can go just wonderfully sort of on script, and and there's a real celebration of what we're doing, and then some days it can feel the same to the actor, but to Guy, everything's going wrong, and the script is shit, and you're shit, and everything needs to be completely reimagined, and on those days it can be quite challenging. But, it keeps you honest, and it challenges me in a way that's exciting, because you can't just show up and go through a process of executing your intention. You have to work in real time, and Guy is fantastic in real time. I mean, he can just write scenes and completely reimagine something that really works, just at the drop of a hat. So it's kind of exciting, kind of frustrating at times.
Yes, it's like I've noticed with some very good directors like Stephen Frears, similar in a way. They don't come with a very strong preconceived notion of how a scene or even a film might be. They come ready to be entertained, ready to see it on the monitor. They've got to see it on the screen, and then they know what they've got. It might be something that they love, big tick, thank you, check the gate, or it might be, well, this doesn't work at all, let's reconceive it. But they don't know it until they've seen it. And what that means is that it has to be created fresh on the day, and that's what the camera likes. It likes fresh on the day. If it's a recording of a pre-rehearsed thing, the camera gets bored.
What I like about this is that everyone looks like they stepped out of GQ. All the costumes. Talk a little bit about, that has to be fun, going clothes shopping or working with wardrobe to dress your character.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, I don't think I've ever felt as suave or felt as confident in a costume as I did on this. And Guy, it was definitely, on both the films I did with Guy, we spent more time discussing costume than any other element in the preparation period. He actually took me shopping on this film. We went to a few of his favorite clothing stores and bought suits and shirts, and it was quite a lovely way to spend an afternoon. Had a couple of wines and went shopping.
Did you get to do this?
We went shopping, but it was for food. It was we just did grocery shopping. It was a bit weird, really.
One of the things that also about Guy is that I guess he does this thing called black box rehearsals before you start shooting. Could you sort of talk about that and what that process is like?
Well, I think it pertains to what I was saying earlier about not having a preconceived idea. It doesn't go by script very much. He has to see it on a screen. So instead of doing a normal read-through where you listen and maybe read the script with the cast who's reading it, he films the whole film in one day against sort of black curtains, edits it together. So then he can see it and he knows what he's got.
Yeah, I mean,
Very
literally
odd process.
Do 1, 2, very rarely 3 takes. Couple of cameras, couple of different pieces of coverage, but so you'll read the scene through all together, standing in sort of, rough approximation of some costume with a couple of props around.
Reading the script off a teleprompter.
Yeah, ostensibly shoot the entire film in its most naked form, and then he fully edits it, watches it, and uses that as a guide to do his final pass on the script before we actually go in and start shooting.
I've never heard anyone do that, but that also, I would imagine, that helps see what you have,
Yeah, it's maybe a bit like how animators work, when they do a sort of very rough black and white sketch version before they get to the expensive stuff.
Often when everyone's talking about a film like this, they're mentioning Guy, they're mentioning the cast. What we're trying to do on Collider recently is talk about like an unsung hero. So someone that maybe should get some credit for working on this, or was a key part of the film, but maybe no one thinks to mention. You know what I mean? Whether it be a first AD, whether it be someone else. Is there someone that you want to sort of shine a light on?
Well, you know the editor, don't you?
Yeah, I know Jimbo, the editor, who I think has had a very acute effect on the overall Guy Ritchie style of filmmaking. I think the aspiration initially with Guy was to sort of make a much more classic style of filmmaking. He wasn't going to do like the snap cuts and the whips and all of those type of things that have sort of become trademark. And I think they got in, and Jimbo starts working his magic on it, and Guy just finds it irresistible. So I think Jim is a huge part of the overall Guy Ritchie machinery. And then I would say Guy's assistant for many, many years, who's sort of much more, a director's assistant often works very, very closely and creatively with the director, I found. But they've been working for many, many years, and Ivan sort of shepherded this project and ended up becoming a full producer on it. So I know he worked very, very hard and for many years to bring this to fruition. So
You guys have some great scenes together, a lot of scenes together. It's my last question. What surprised you about each other that maybe you weren't expecting? Learning, spending so much time together, if anything.
As actors, you mean?
Or as people.
Oh, well.
I can see Charlie's.
I was surprised by how cool Charlie is. It was a natural cool. And I don't know whether that's you or pharmaceuticals, but he's cool. He's laid back, and I'm not at all. I'm wound up like a whippet. So I was surprised by that. And as for his secrets, I know them all now.
And we did. We actually didn't spend that much time together. It was about 4.5 days, I think, total, which really is extraordinary, I think, when you see the end result, which I haven't, but I can imagine, because Hugh delivers somewhere in the region of 45 pages of monologue. But yeah, that was all shot in about 4.5 days, I think.
I'm stunned by that.
Yeah, remarkable, right?
Stunned.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
He brought the thunder, as they say.
His face is like, Anyway.
Well, no, that is roughly true.